Hey, RetconRaider here, and welcome back to Warhammer 40k Rogue Trader. As today, with the DLC more or less complete, it's just main plot from here on out. It really does feel like we're getting into the final stretch here, though obviously we've still got a lot of crunchy bits to get through, of course, before we actually get to that last bite. But yeah, we're definitely getting there. Case in point. 4 more ranks of Drusian rep, with just 4 more left to go. I think we're well on our way to actually capping this out before we hit the end of Act 4. And of course that gets us a bevy of new toys to play with as well. Some of which actually look halfway decent, but a lot of which, of course, is just your usual random filler. Stuff that could be useful if we had the right builds, but which in most cases we simply do not. But these two in particular, the Blade Wings and the Commander's Chrono, are good enough that I might go out of my way to find some way to fit them in. Especially considering that we're theoretically pulling 1 or maybe even 2 characters off the bench for the next stretch of plot. Ulfar's pretty much a sure thing. I've already leveled him up, and I was seriously considering giving him these Blade Wings, since of course he already has a bit of a hard time moving around on some of the more claustrophobic maps. But unfortunately, it turns out that the Blade Wings are actually a ring slot item, which makes it a much tougher sell since it's going up against stuff like the Secrets of the Forerunner, the Demolition Instructions, both of which I think I'd really rather keep. Though we do still have options. I mean, in theory, we could pretty easily swap it in for one of the weaker skill items on Pask or possibly Kibs. But I'm also possibly considering tagging Heinrichs back in, but it's less certain than Ulfar. I mean, Ulfar is pretty much guaranteed to have plot stuff once we get into those last 2 sectors. Heinrichs is a maybe. I mean, I'm sure he'll have some stuff with, like, Kalkazar I'm just less certain about beyond that. But the Blade Wings or the Commander's Chronos, either could be a good fit for him. But yeah, something to think about. No big rush, since I imagine this episode will primarily just be set up. We've been summoned before Kalkazar, so I imagine we're in for a big old lore dump. And our first real hints as to exactly what he might be up to. Though, before any of that, we've got the Schemers of Viabos 6. The colony is facing a leadership crisis. The current governor is weak, and the nobles are engaging in a power struggle and have all but forgotten governing the planet. Really awkward timing, guys. I literally just got done dealing with schemers back on Dargonis. Though, if I do coddle you, it looks like I get a bit of extra profit, albeit at the cost of everything else. Whereas, using you as an example grants efficiency, but also at the cost of everything else. And being a heretic, as per usual, just kind of makes things worse, so I think that one's right out. Oh, I am kind of tempted by that profit, because we have that item that grants skill bonuses scaling off profit factor. But, no, I don't think I can justify that. Not based on Valen's recent grandstanding back in the Palace of Justice. Execution feels like it might be a bit heavy-handed, but it's either punish or enable, so... Sorry guys, like I said, just really, really awkward timing. Maybe if you'd tried this back in Act 2. Though the nobles are now resentful of the rogue trader, fear drives them to be more diligent in their duty to the colony. Also, no net loss, so I think we can live with that. Except for the people who didn't. And now on to Footfall. Let's go catch up with our local Kalkazar. I'm sure we'll have quite a bit to talk about, considering how much has transpired since last we met. Man, when was the last time we even saw this guy? I want to say it was before Act 3. We've talked about him in Heinrich's quest. I think we got a letter from him, too. I would honestly have to go back and double-check. It has been a while. And yes, we'll go ahead and bench Solo and tag in Ulfar. I've already prepped for that. Though now I'm also thinking we should probably pull Heinrichs in for this as well. Yeah, you know what? What the heck? I can't imagine Kibbs has much to say to Kalkazar. We'll see what Heinrichs brings to the table. That'll help decide if we want to possibly tag him in for more. I mean, in theory, build-wise, I could see him potentially subbing in for Abby, which I kind of hate to do because I love Abby. Or maybe Kibbles? Patch 1.5 really takes a hatchet to both the Blade Dancer and the Executioner. Zeta? Don't suppose that was enough to actually bump us up on skills? Nope. That's fine, I'm sure we'll get there. At the very least, we've got 2 more sectors worth of planet scans ahead of us. Now let's go see what Kalkazar has to say. The Lord Inquisitor is engrossed in studying star system charts and reports which are amassed on the desk, like the ridges of a formidable mountain range. There are shadows beneath his eyes which are ruthlessly dissecting the latest report, and his skin seems stretched, taut over the bones of his skull. Without turning his head to you, Kalkazar says wearily, "Hi, Ellie." "Greetings, your lordship. Your timing is impeccable." An aged servant with the bearing of a veteran approaches the two of you. In a precise movement, he replaces the untouched cup of cold recaf in front of the Lord Inquisitor with a new one, slightly steaming. The warrior of Fenris folds his arms on his ceramite-plated chest regally, and says in a dour voice, "Greetings, Inquisitor. You and I need to talk." Kalkazar bows respectfully. "Glory to the Emperor's angels of Fenris. Your words will be heeded, my lord." Heinrichs nods silently at Kalkazar, who responds by ever so slightly bowing his head. "Kalkazar, it's been a while. You called me, and thus here I am. What seems to be the problem?" "I value your directness. It will save us much time. Yes, there is something you must do. It is time for you to play your part to save the Coronis Expanse. I would not disturb your esteemed personage for anything less. Lady Navigator Cassia Tisiphia Evriela." The Lord Inquisitor's lips curve into a thin smile as he catches a glimpse of scarlet eyes. "I hear that House Orselio is going through a difficult time. Change is coming. I sincerely hope it is for the better." "Your colors, Lord Inquisitor, are as rich as they are multifaceted. I have never encountered anything like it before. Unclouded hues flowing from one to the next. Amazing harmony. Amazing and frightening." Cassia raises her chin and nods demurely. that a man of such status and talents has taken an interest in the well-being of a Navis Nobilite house is a great honor. Yeah, that's one word for it. So, Inquisitor Kalkazar, it really has been a while, hasn't it? I don't think we've spoken since my Ascension ceremony. Not even after my sojourn to Camorra, which I'm happy to say I found my way back out of. The Inquisitor raises an eyebrow, impressed. You escaped from the Dark City, a feat that few have accomplished. Truly, I congratulate you on an exceptional performance, and I won't even mar your triumph by telling you that the Inquisition will, of course, be watching you very closely henceforth. I sincerely hope that your grand escape was not part of the Xenos' devious machinations. I mean, I slaughtered an entire cabal and blew a giant hole in their city on my way out, so I'm going to say they probably didn't mean for things to go that way. But I suppose if you still have doubts, you could question my man Ulfar here. We escaped together. Indeed. You petitioned our aid in fighting Xenos. We spilt much alien blood, but the wind of battle carried me far, and I lost contact with my pack. Do you know where I can seek my brothers, the baleful Howl? I am afraid not. According to the information in my possession, they withdrew from the battle raging in the Expanse. The Lord Inquisitor's deferential tone now carries a dry edge. You lie. The baleful Howl never run from battle. Ulfar's reply to the outrageous claim is surprisingly calm. Only the frosty chill of death born of his voice and carried across the room makes everyone's hair stand on end. Inquisitor Kalkazar, perhaps you could define withdrew? Contrary to my request to continue hunting the Xenos, they embarked on an expedition whose objective is unknown to me. There has been no word of them since. Sounds suspicious. This is not how we wolves conduct ourselves. I can tell you no more. As you well know, your pack preferred not to report their plans and intentions to me. Albeit no match for Ulfar's tongue of ice, the coldness in Kalkazar's voice, too, could freeze an entire world. Any idea what may have caught their attention? I presumed it was to search for Brother Ulfar. It is common knowledge how deeply Space Wolves value the ties of brotherhood, far more deeply than the ties that bind them to other subjects of the Emperor. Right, of course, Brother Ulfar, who ended up in the same place I did after being betrayed by one of your people. I mean, your Liet screwed up, but only after Achilles Scalander did. I don't suppose you could perhaps help us find them? No, but I believe I know someone who is better informed, and I will name that person as soon as we finally start discussing the matter that prompted me to summon your lordship. You know, speaking of Xenos, before we go any further, I should note that while we haven't spoken directly in quite some time, I did encounter one of your acolytes out in the field. Emelina, I believe her name was. She had some interesting things to say about your relationship with those Xenos you claim to be fighting. I would like to remind you that the particularities of the Inquisition's work lie far beyond a rogue trader's purview. But given the circumstances, yes, Acolyte Lichtenhart's words are true. It has been several years since I established contact with the Drukhari. They informed me of upcoming raids, and I thwarted them. I kept the Expanse safe while the Xenos were absorbed in their internal squabbles. which are of little interest to me. Which does explain a lot. We had previously speculated it might have been Urbend Drivestem, who was working with the Drukhari, the source of information to Euremerus, the former head of the Cabal of the Reaving Tempest. But we got that information from Scolander, who was, in essence, one of Inquisitor Calcazar's men. An arrangement which not only did not spare our protectorate from repeat attacks by said Drukhari, but which also pretty spectacularly blew up in our face once Marazai got it into his head to figure out who the mole was, which he was convinced was us, but it turns out it was actually someone a bit higher up in the chain. Can't say I'm super happy about that. Strictly speaking, one might regard my actions in this situation as unorthodox at the very least. In reality, however, they are undoubtedly beneficial. Acolyte Lichtenhart has demonstrated her inability to surmount the bounds of convention, and had she been in my position, the Expanse would have likely already fallen under the blows of the present crisis. Fortunately for you, she is not, and the Drukhari, drained by their power struggles and bereft of their best raiders, can do nothing more than run from my fleets. Sure, you're just a big damn hero. Certainly does seem like those ends justified the means. Minus, I suppose, the part where I got captured, or Dargonis was attacked, or Viabos 6 was attacked, or the planet you sent Lichtenhart to was attacked, or when Ulfar over there got captured, Tervantius running rampant all over the sector, stealing suns. Yeah, ignoring all that, your plan's working just great. Heinrichs, I have to say I am disappointed by how easily information pertaining to the Expanse's security reaches the ears of those who should not be privy to it. This will be noted in your record. Would you care to put my concerns to rest and tell me that Emelina is not out there running amok around my sector and continuing to sow unrest? In response to Calcazar's questions, Heinrichs' eyes narrow, smoldering with anger. Emelina is dead. By my hand. Indeed. Well, I hope I can continue to trust you to know when a useful resource is finally exhausted and must be disposed of. Wow, right in front of me, huh? I've got to say, Calcazar, I do not see things between us ending well, but you know what? To be continued. Your Lordship, I hope it goes without saying that I would appreciate you not spreading dangerous and misleading rumors going forward, and keeping the content of this conversation private. Given the current state of affairs, I would have to treat such actions as subversive, so I thank you in advance for your considerate silence. Yeah, about that. I've actually been running around putting out a whole lot of fires lately, so which situation exactly are you talking about? Might be one I've already taken care of. The cult of the Final Dawn and the Drukhari Raiders are vying with each other to see who can cause us the greatest turmoil. I have mobilized all the forces I can to repel the attacks, which is why we are still alive. Combined militia brigades are hunting for Xenos and guarding convoys, and the expeditionary platoons under my command are crushing heretic rebellions. The situation is unstable, but I will not pretend that I was prepared for this crisis. However, we have not lost our footing yet. Cal, weren't you literally just telling me that the Drukhari were fleeing before your mighty fleets? What exactly changed? Prisoner interrogations indicate that an incident occurred in the Dark City. What the Xenos call a disjunction. A dimensional calamity that forced them to step up their raids in real space. Oh, really? Can't imagine how that might have happened. Their audacity speaks to their desperation, which in turn will translate into new trials for his servants. What's this about the Cult of the Final Dawn? The warp is raging. This baleful sign always portends change, and crises beget desperation, the most fertile ground for heresy. I believe the archenemy's servants think their time has come, or perhaps this day was marked on their profane scripture as the date of the end of existence. I will not trouble myself with further attempts to make sense of their blasphemous doctrine. They are bent on destroying us all, and so they must be destroyed. Sure. And I mean, if you'd like to point me in their direction, I'd be happy to take care of that. Got a few scores to settle there as well. Really, all I'm hearing here is that you seem like you are indeed stretched a mite bit thin, especially with so many of your allies and agents turning against you. You sure you're cut out for this? You see a better candidate for the job? The Lord Inquisitor closes his eyes wearily for a moment. I may no longer be in the first flush of youth, but believe me when I say that there are many things I would much rather be doing than playing constable to the Coronis Expanse. But, alas, every ruler in our sector chooses to confine their concern to the well-being of their own holdings, whereas I alone must take care of all. I mean, look, I'm just saying that a real leader knows how to delegate. I notice you contacted both of my rogue trading peers, but never once tried to call upon House Valancius, despite my numerous and ever-growing list of successes. Are you not standing before me now? While your status remained unclear, I preferred not to requisition the resources of the Von Valancius Protectorate. Your people dealt with Urlan the Cruel's agents and the Xenos raids, and that was enough for me. But now is the time to add your might and talents to the scales. Oh, good. So now I finally get looped into your grand plan. Please do go on. I'm very eager to hear it. I can only hope that it's as well thought out as your alliance with the Cabal of the Reaving Tempest. The glance tossed at you is like a shot from an auto-pistol at point-blank range. Interesting analogy considering the fate of my predecessor. If such a plan were to exist, information about it would be of the utmost secrecy. I suggest you focus on the current strategy of putting out each fire as you encounter it. I mean, sure, yeah, I never stopped doing that either. But it does involve watching for more smoke. I just see no need to get bogged down in the details. To apprise you of all the information I currently possess would require more time than we have. Uh-huh. Well, that does make it all the more curious that you didn't call me in sooner. Just out of curiosity, is this the same pitch you gave to Caligos Winterscale? His lordship deemed it more important to show off his stubbornness than to safeguard the interests of the Expanse. Stupidity of the most burdensome kind. But my sources inform me that he nevertheless has joined my efforts against the Xenos, and so I have decided to stay any sanctions. For a time. And pray tell, did your sources also perhaps give you any idea of why he was acting the way he did, or about his sudden change of heart? His lordship has long displayed a susceptibility to corrupting ideas. His loss of interest in managing his protectorate and his appetite for violence drew my notice some time ago. After a moment's hesitation, Kalkazar adds, the only question that remains unanswered is how many agents of the archenemy have infiltrated his entourage. I mean, if you already knew that much, then why not resolve the situation? Or was that what you were trying to do when you just sicked Incendia on him? The Inquisitor's jaw hardens. Despite the impression I may have created, I am not a schoolmaster obliged to rein in misbehaving rogue traders. Caligos rejected the call to fulfill his destiny to the Emperor. What discussion was there to be had? I mean, I'm just saying I met the guy like a grand total of 3 times before I pinged the exact source of the problem. It was his Master of Arms, by the way, and Caligos killed him himself as soon as I pointed it out. How curious. When all this is over, I will certainly call you as a witness at Caligos's trial. Together we will decide how best to handle him while ensuring the safety of the Expanse. Oh, Cal, buddy, I've got to say, it's awfully bold of you to assume you'll still be around by then, but sure, we'll put a pin in that for later. And, you know, while we're on the subject, regarding Incendia, I'd really love to assume that you're aware she was essentially destroying the entire station right underneath you. Naturally, her ladyship has done me an invaluable service by taking on the task of installing order on the station. Though her style of leadership seems unnecessarily brutal to me, on the whole her actions have not exceeded the bounds I set. Okay, so you were aware of the damage she was causing, but saw no reason to intervene for, like, one of the only 2 lifelines in and out of the Cronus Expanse? I feel like that's awfully short-sighted if your ultimate goal is the protection and prosperity of the Expanse as a whole. Firstly, I entrusted the task to her ladyship, and she is executing it competently. And secondly, Valen, are you unaware of what I am trying to do here? At present, I am trying to prevent the deaths of billions, yet you ask me why I am choosing not to save hundreds. I mean, I've got to say, Cal, from where I'm standing, it looks like you're doing a pretty piss-poor job of both. Also, you seem like you might be a tiny bit behind on current events, considering that Incendia left the station quite some time ago. Ah, did she? I am surprised you managed such a feat. However, it is probably for the best. I assumed the 2 of you would clash, but I expected a more tragic outcome. I admire your zeal for peacekeeping. Yeah, it sure sounds like it. Look, brass tacks, what exactly am I doing here? Frosher, if you please. The Inquisitor nods imperiously at the servant, who draws some kind of remote control from his pocket. All sounds whose sources are more than 3 meters away fade to nothing. Feels like you really should have turned that on when we first started talking, but okay. Whatever you're about to say must be really bad. Also, an awful lot of focus being put on Frosher there. I assume he's more than just a mere manservant. To my chagrin, the ability to be in 2 places at once does not number among my talents. That is why I wish for you to serve in my stead. I place such trust in very few people, you understand. You will feel what it is to walk in my shoes, and attempt to compel a gaggle of quarrelsome blockheads to work together. You will reconquer Euphrates II for me. The Inquisitor gestures to the servant, and the silencing field disperses. Frosher, another recaf. This one has gone cold. More focus on the servant. Yeah, they definitely want us to remember him for some reason. Pascal jerks his head up, clearly recognizing the name Calcazar just uttered. Abelard stifles a grunt of displeasure, his mutter pitched for your ears only. You will reconquer Euphrates II for me. The esteemed Lord Inquisitor has done away with all pretense and politeness now. His orders no longer come with even the veneer of a request. Yeah. Honestly, I'm mainly just thrown by the fact that he only thought to silence that one singular part of our exchange. So who's your friend here? You've got him running recap, but I can't help but note you've also got him stationed on our flanks. An assassin, perhaps? Why can't both be true? The Frosher has been a member of my retinue for 50 Terran years, and the person in my entourage who comes closest to being my confidant. Something akin to a warm smile touches the Inquisitor's lips. We have had cause to be involved in many incidents whose reports have since been marked with a seal of silence. Frosher nods deferentially, and on his aged, jowled face appears an expression caught between eternal loyalty, motherly affection, and religious devotion. Sure. But now that I have agreed to the task, I do have to ask, any particular reason you wanted me for this specific job? To whom else could I entrust this mission? No need to feign ignorance, Von Valancius. We both know the shortcomings of the other candidates for this position. At present in the Expanse, there are 2 people with the perspective and steady hand required to control this situation. And they are both standing in this room. So, if you will, dispense with the humble rogue trader act, and win this war for me. Well, you know what? Maybe I will. But I'll need to know more. I assume you have no qualms about at least sharing information about this specific situation with me? Yes, of course. It is a sacred world of the Adeptus Mechanicus, off limits to laypeople. I am one of the few who do not worship the Omnissiah to have set foot on its surface. Or rather, I was. Now it is crawling with unbelievers. The despicable word-bearers attacked and captured Euphrates too, and the cult of the Final Dawn brought an entire horde of heretics to the planet. Registering a Sanctity Alpha priority mission. The scourge of corrupted misbelievers reigning over blessed workshops fills the Omnissiah's faithful with anguish. Activating auto-asceticism protocol. I offer a prayer for the liberation of the sacred world. From beneath Pascal's crimson robe comes the sound of mechanisms whirring to life, and dark bloodstains streak across the fabric. Yes, well, I sent my troops to aid the Explorator forces laying siege to the world, but a rift occurred among the commanders. They need an authoritative general, and you are perfect for the role. My confidence is not misplaced, I trust. No, I can definitely take care of this. Though I do have to wonder, considering all the other conflicts you've let continue unabated throughout the Expanse, why, you said it yourself, you don't worship the Omnissiah, so why such an interest in this specific conflict in particular? An utterly transparent attempt to learn secret intelligence. I offer to make you my general, and you try to pump me for information? Poorly done. Well, what can I say? I generally like to have information so I can actually do my job properly. I am starting to understand why so many of your agents fail, though. As for the word-bearers, I have encountered them before. Though in that case, they preface their invasion with more subtle subterfuge. Their interest in Forge Worlds is obvious, but why the open siege this time? Clearly, the stakes for them are high enough. Uralon the Cruel has stirred his profane self to make a personal appearance on Euphrates, too. Conrad Voidveer, incidentally, is also there. I hear you two have unfinished business. Him I will generously leave to you. When you are finished with him, you may simply dispose of his mortal remains. No need to surrender them to the Inquisition for an inquest. Consider it my gift. Gosh, what a generous gesture. Though I can't help but notice you didn't mention what they're after. The reasons behind their machinations would be pure speculation at this point. Bring me prisoners to interrogate, and perhaps we will gain some much-needed insight. Uh-huh. You know what? Maybe I'll bring in Conrad for questioning. Seems like he'd be put to better use with this than me holding on to him and maybe accidentally being mistaken for harboring a heretic. So what's going on with your commanders? Explorator Fleet Divine Cognizance 78-21 recalled its most combat-ready units to retake the world. They were supported by my most powerful strike fleet and a group of deadlier allies. I dispatched a pack of space wolves to hunt down the transgressors. Unfortunately, the leaders have failed to find a common language. The esteemed Thorvald is at odds with the conclave of the Mechanicus' battle congregation, and the Omnissiah's servants find Thorvald's strident nature off-putting. And neither group is fond of militant Sibilek, who commands my forces. We're not fond, to be precise. The esteemed militant perished along with his ship a week ago, when his noble allies failed to support his offensive. The Inquisitor bows to Ulfar curtly. I recommend that you, too, go to Euphrates too, my lord. Perhaps your pack was less reticent with the esteemed Thorvald than with me, and told him where they decided to direct their efforts. It is a fine suggestion, which I accept gratefully, Inquisitor. The expression of respect on Ulfar's face does a poor job of hiding his antipathy. I've got to say, Kalkazar, given how much difficulty you seem to be having with your Space Wolf allies, it really does make me wonder how exactly you brought them on board in the first place. I'd certainly love some context. I must remind you that I am still Lord Inquisitor of the Coronis Expanse, not merely some... What do you always say, Froscher? Some Grox bothering prick? If certain rogue traders at times allow themselves to speak to me in an overly willful manner, that should not give you cause to doubt my authority. Right. Well, I've answered your call, I've heard your request, and I will take it from here. Excellent. You will be given the details when you arrive in orbit around Euphrates too. Great. I look forward to it. I never doubted you, your lordship. The Emperor protects. What are you doing? Kalkazar nods at the paper that his servant has deferentially delivered to the table. This document attests to the extraordinary powers you now have at your disposal. I'm counting on your success, Valen. Neat, thanks. So did you actually give me something, or... No. Yeah, if it was like a quest object, I would have suspected a bug or something similar. Froscher? 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 I wish the best of success to your lordship. Now, I beg your pardon. There are many other matters requiring my attention. Yep, I'll leave you to it. I don't like Inquisitor Kalkazar. I think he's up to no good. Also, I noticed they're not letting us immediately travel back to our ship straight from the manor, which would imply there's something waiting for us on the way back. An ambush, perhaps?
your wits about you.
Wait, are they funneling us to the Adeptus? No, we can go back to our ship. Weird. Okay. Fair enough, I guess. Man, so my head is spinning trying to parse out all the potential skullduggery working behind the scenes right now. Especially with Kalkazar slightly shockingly... Oh yeah, there's our approach. With Kalkazar slightly shockingly just outright admitting that he had in fact worked out a deal with the Drukhari, which, you know, does not reflect well on him, given that it does make it seem like he has a direct or indirect hand in many of the things that have plagued both us and the greater expanse. And I do feel like his selection for us on this particular task, plus the casual mention of Conrad's involvement, not to mention the gracious gesture of letting us keep his corpse afterwards, is also part of his efforts to tie loose ends. Not just with us, but also with Conrad himself. I would not be surprised at this point if it also turns out that Conrad was secretly in cahoots with Kalkazar. Who knows, perhaps Kalkazar was explicitly trying to get Conrad to take over as the rogue trader of the von Valancius family, once he deemed Theodora too troublesome to continue working with, only for the plan to end up going awry due to the untimely intervention of an errant Argenta. Also begs the question of who Travantius's mystery partner was. Just because Kalkazar was working with the Cabal of the Reaving Tempest doesn't mean that he was working with Travantius. That said, we'll hit the pause button for now. I will take care of the usual off-screen bookkeeping, and I think I will go ahead and get Heinrichs leveled up. He was pretty quiet during that meeting with Kalkazar, but I mean, obviously, he's the sort of guy who knows when to hold his tongue a lot better than Val does. But I do suspect we'll get some interesting intel from him. And, you know, while I do love having Kibbles in the crew, her story is basically over, and they are about to completely rebalance her entire archetype loadout. So rather than mess with all that, I might as well just tag in someone new. So yeah, I'll take care of all that, and we will pick up here next time. See you then. Oh, and special thanks to the Raiders, the fine folks who help make these videos possible, including but not limited to Erie V23, Revenant, Alois, Bowman, Dragon Matrix 7, Drakiith, EgonAlter, Exsellsior, Gottlieb, James Trimmier, Lady Shayna, Giemza, OverlordPherom, RandomPassrby, RobbyB, Triphoppenskip, and Valinrook. Thanks for your support, guys. That said, if you'd also like to help support the channel, then feel free to push the buttons that do the things. Trust me, it does make a difference. Or you could even check out the PayPal, the Patreon, the Nexus GG, or the YouTube memberships. Links are in the description.
Rushna Dordal.